Hi, my friends. How are you doing? This is Leopard, and I welcome you to the Leopard Institute of Coaching and Mentorship. It is a privilege, it is an honor to speak with you. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to talk to you, and I'm glad that you even took time to listen to me. I'm so grateful. I say thank you. Thank you so much, and God bless you. So, today I have an interesting group of people that I want to bring on the table for discussion, and I want to discuss the psychology of public figures and celebrities. So I need to say why, and then I need to say who are these that I'm talking about. So why is the fact that there is a synonymity in terms of how these people relate with themselves, how they relate with others, and how others relate with them. There is some degree of commonality, and that's why I'm putting them all together and discussing them in one episode. And then who are these people that I'm talking about? So I am talking about um, top tier civil servants. And that when I say top tier, I'm not necessarily talking ranks, but I'm talking in terms of engagement, how much they engage with other people. So it could be the internal customer, whereby you preside over a number of people. And then there could be the external customer, whereby you are a public figure and you are the one who is supposed to resonate the philosophy of the corporation you work for. You are the one who is supposed to do the messaging, you define policy, but above all, your level of engagement externally is a bit exaggerated. So people know you, they see you on TV, they see you in public places, articulating policy. They hear your name being mentioned because you are among the people who engage or who define what gets to happen on behalf of your corporation. So I'm talking about politicians. So it doesn't matter the level at which you are operating, whether you're president, whether you're cabinet secretary, whether you're governor, you are an MCA, you are a politician who engages with a constituency of people, who has to get a narrative, to sell that narrative, and then the people relate with you, resonate with you, and then they're able to buy into that particular brand of politics. And of course, the majority have their way and the minority have their say. That's politics for you. And that's the category of people I'm talking about. I'm talking about Mr. CEO. So you're a general manager, you are at a top level manager, you are an MD, CEO, whether you're the founder of your own company or you're just employed in a blue chip company, and you have a constituency that you preside over. You have a team that you work with, but there is another constituency whereby the policies that you put in place end up to affect their day-to-day lives, because what you do at work significantly affects how you behave, think, and resonate outside of office. So these are the people that I am talking about: the people who articulate, vision, people who articulate mission, who articulate value systems, who come up with, the mission, the goals, and follow through to implement them. I'm talking about celebrities who are in sports, who are in music, who are acting in entertainment, generally support. We're talking about fashion. We are talking about influencers who have been able to create an identity, and people have been able to identify with them, and they follow through to know what you're doing, what you are saying. They respond to your personal life, whether it is your scandals, whether it is the good things that you are doing. And you know that bad news sells. Most of the time it is news when a man bites a dog and not when the dog bites a man. So these kind of people who have an exaggerated kind of pressure that comes from the populace, but also a pressure that is generated internally and around the people that surround you. And so there are three dichotomies that I'm going to, or dichotomies too. Anyway, so there are three dimensions that I am going to discuss here. The first dimension is how you perceive yourself as a public figure and as an influencer, somebody who carries the weight of other people. But then there is also how people perceive you. And the third dimension is how you respond, or how you perceive the way others perceive you. Those are the three dimensions that I'm going to discuss: how a public figure and a celebrity views themselves, and then how people view them, and then how they respond to it. So, to make it easier, let me start by how people view us. For a politician, people view you as the village ATM. So when people are not able to pay their personal bills, food, clothing, school fees, they come to you and they say, help me. And sometimes they line as early as 5, 6 a.m. I'm saying this because I am one. And they expect you to be able to help them fix their personal issues. That is how they see you. They see you as a solution to their problems. When there are issues of infrastructure in this school or the other, they put together Harambe, they expect you to come and chip in. And when they invite you, bring you on the equation, they have high expectations of you that you should be able to do something big and something major. It's a church project there, they want you. There's a market project there, they want you. They don't care where you get the money from and whether you have the money. They know very well how much money is available at your disposal. They make a lot of noise, and it's the middle class which makes a lot of noise that you're being paid a lot of money. And so when you're paid little, they still join the queue to bring you on board to come and contribute the little that you have. And when you use other means, and I'm not necessarily advocating for that, but because that's what happens when you use other means to get a little more money, they still make noise on you, call you bad names, and baptize you and judge you at the same time. So this is the kind of conflict. This is the kind of psychological conflict that goes through the life of a politician. Um, the other conflict that happens to a typical politician, and by the way, when you are also an accomplished sportsman, an accomplished musician, entertainer, an accomplished writer, author, an accomplished motivational speaker, an accomplished pastor who talks to many people, again, people still come to you with this kind of thing. So they are going hungry, talk to the pastor. They are having turmoil in their marriages, talk to the pastor. They have issues with their children, talk to the pastor. They have a problem getting a job, they are trying to ask pastor not only to pray but to do something about it. So that is how other people view us. You are the solution. The second thing that I want to talk about is how we view ourselves. And we view ourselves as solutions to the world. Sometimes we offer ourselves as living sacrifices and as burnt offerings to provide solutions to the troubles and needs of men. And most of the times we offer ourselves beyond our capacities, beyond our abilities, beyond our capabilities and competences that are within us. What exactly do I mean? A leader would hardly stop and say no. Why? Because of need and pressure, a pressure that needs to be managed one way or another. Let me give example. So you are a leader, and anytime there's a child that has not gone to school, you'll find your name in a WhatsApp group. Anytime there is a funeral somewhere, you'll find your name in the group. Anytime there is a construction project somewhere, you'll find your name in the group. Anytime there is something, somebody is sick, is in hospital, of course, as Africans, the Ubuntu, we must stick out for one another. We must help one another. But trust you, mate, is the CEO who gets added to the list. It's the manager who gets to be added to the list very fast. It is that guy who seems to have a name for themselves that get to be added on the list. And sometimes you will find yourself added on 50 WhatsApp groups at the same time. So whether they are requesting for 500 or 1,000 or 10,000, whether there are limits being set or it is free for all, the truth of the matter is you will not always have the resources to be able to respond to all these needs. And the person who has put you in a funeral group expects you to do 1,000 or 2,000 or even 500, does not know that there are other 26 groups where you've been added that you need to do school fees for 10,000 and you need to do this other thing. So whether you're a politician, whether you're a public figure, you are a pastor, you are a celebrity, you are a guy who has seen light, so you are known, you are the manager, or you are the fellow who is doing well and accomplished, we view ourselves that we must do something about it. And most of the times we do it at our own expense. So we have a name to protect, we have a CV, we have a reputation to protect. So we do not want to appear like our names did not make it to the list. And so we will work so hard to make sure that we do something about it at our expense. So we will even borrow to do it. We will exhaust our coffers to do it. We'll go on overdraft just to do it. We will get into debt just to do it. We will deny our own children essentials just to make sure that we do it. From a psychological standpoint, there must be a balance. And you must get to that point where you no longer feel guilty for not being able to do one thing or the other, but you consciously resolve it and say, if I had the resources, I honestly would have done it. But because it is what it is, I did my best and I'm not able to go beyond this. Because you need to be emotionally well at the same time. The other thing that is, and this falls so much with the politician, is that we have gotten to a place where we have normalized, we have accepted, we have embraced the fact that a funeral is a good place for us to do branding. So a family is mourning, somebody has died, and whether we have paid our premiums by supporting that particular family or the arrangement of that funeral or not, on the burial day, it is showtime. So we must show up in that particular funeral, make our statements, make our campaigns, and this happens a lot around campaign time. And we're supposed to be empathizing. We're supposed to be mourning with those people. We're supposed to be supporting them. We're supposed to be, just sticking there and standing with them. But then the mere fact that we have gotten to a place where we find it okay to go to funerals where we don't even know the person who we don't even know the person who has died. Now, I remember the story is told by a friend of mine. He's my friend because we've had occasions to meet and talk at a personal level. And the guy is supposed to be my uncle. So he went to a certain funeral. The person who had died was a boda rider. So he asked, Hana Halangwa, I mean, what's the name of the guy who has died? So he's told the name of the fellow was died. And then when it's time to go to the podium comes, he says, this guy was my buddy. He used to carry me every time I was in town. He used to give me a lift and blah, blah, blah. And the story goes on. So he has never met this guy. But the fact that our trade, our career, seems to demand that we have to identify with them and then in a fictitious way that is not authentic means there is something wrong somewhere with what life has pushed us to be. So I'm not necessarily judging how we do it. I'm not necessarily even pointing, but I am saying authoritatively, like a psychologist, that the mere fact that we've gotten to that point means that we are allowing something that is abnormal to become normal, and we are giving away a little piece of our humanity in the process. So let me qualify that by saying something else. So um, it happens with celebrities, it happens with pastors, it happens with top tier civil servants, it happens with top even mid-level managers, in corporates, and it happens to politicians as well. But politicians handle it differently. Let me just put it this way. So anyone, if you are a celebrity, you're a sportsman, you are a musician, you are known, you are an influencer. What happens is that when people have issues, they always send you that SMS asking you to bail them out. So if there is a family need, they will reach out. They reach out because they are your friends, or they reach out just randomly because they are your constituents or what have you. So all these other people, the pastor feels guilty, the corporate leader feels guilty, the influencer, the celebrity feels guilty, the politician does not feel guilty. Why? Because I think politicians are usually asked a little more. When we borrow from these other people, we have the feeling that they should be having it and they should be able to assist. But the politician, we approach the politician like it is a right. Like, we put you in office, now you should return. You should return the favor and give. And so the politicians are borrowed too much until they have gotten to a point that, first of all, if you are a leader, you have an image to protect. So if you're broke and somebody asks you for 5K, you feel embarrassed to talk back at them, to tell them that, you see, even that 5K that you're asking is probably the money I'm trying to get so that I can fuel my car just to go to work today. And because you are embarrassed, you will not give that feedback. Incidentally, for us who, okay, for those who are not in the political space, sometimes they may not respond, because if you're asking me for 10,000 and I am also looking for that 10,000 so that I can sort myself on a need of mine, I will feel embarrassed to tell you that I don't have. But at the same time, if I don't give you, Atuna deni, I mean, we don't need to fight about this. So if you are my personal friend, I can tell you not today. If you are not my personal friend, then whatever it is what it is. But a politician cannot afford to keep quiet. Because if a politician in an electioneering cycle does not give you some form of response, you will feel they have neglected you and you will feel they have lost points. Even the politician views himself that he must do something or he must say something. So, what have they devised as a mechanism of survival? The defense mechanism is they will promise you. They'll even tell you, come to the office. They'll even tell you, come see me next week, call me next week. When they know very well they don't have that money. When they know very well, practically speaking, they can't meet all the needs they are trying to schedule for. Now, I don't even have an answer or a solution on how to deal with that. I may have suggestions, but I don't think that I have answers. But my point is, the mere fact that our trade has pushed us to such a level that we can tell you point blank, come see me tomorrow in the office, when I know very well that even if you come and find me, I'll not come through for you. The mere fact that I am able to tell you, okay, I have heard you, I will do something about it, I will do it next month, knowing very well that you are asking me to do something that is worth 500K, yet after my deductions in my salary, I remain with 500K. But I will still tell you that I will do it. The fact that we are able to do that means that somehow we are programming our mind. And it is the reason why they say politicians are liars. It is not because they are liars, it is because it is a survival mode, it's a survival mechanism. The populations demand from them more than what they are able to give. And we need to start having these conversations, because until we have these conversations, we shall not be able to change how society operates. We shall not be able to transform our community. Now, today people will boast, they will tell you, if you go to Sweden, if you go to Canada, if you go to UK, if you go to Australia, an MP, boards a train and even stands in the train, whereas a Kenyan MP, blah, 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 blah. There must be power. Oh, when we went to the Queen's funeral, our presidents were being bundled in a bus, but and all those kind of things. Now, listen, when Joe Biden comes for the Queen's funeral and the president of and the Israeli prime minister, when they come with all their machinery and with glamour, we praise them. And when our presidents sit in a bus, we chastise them. We say, look, that is Suluhu, that is William Ruto, that is Mnangagwa, that is Ramaphosa of South Africa. Look, they are seated in a bus. That is embarrassing. Our presidents have been embarrassed. And then tomorrow we say, how come our ministers are causing traffic jam, yet an MP, a congressman, and a senator from the House of Representatives in the US or in the UK or in Canada, they take a bus home, they take a train home, they share an apartment, they go rent an apartment in New York. So on one hand, we are praising the fact that congressmen are sharing an apartment, 3 or 4 of them in one house to minimize costs. But when our people, when our own leaders live in a way that is less extravagant, we call them broke. We tell them they are finished. We tell them, when they are carried in a bus, we bash them. When they also bring choppers and when they bring the glamour and the riders, like the other presidents, we also complain. So that is the dichotomy. That is the confusion of both ends. That the way our constituency views us is very conflicting with reality. And we have gotten to a point where we also view ourselves exactly as, and now that is where the problem is, because a balance of truth needs to be established. I said the 3 dimensions are, it is how you view yourself, how people view us, and how you view their perception of us. So if they think that we are all set, we never lack. Not so long ago, I met a friend of mine. We had a conversation. I met him on the streets of Nairobi. I was going somewhere. I was actually going to have lunch and he was going to another place. So we coincided and said, hey, my buddy, I'll not tell you what I said because you know who the person is. Said, hey, buddy, how are you? Nice to see you. He told me, you're looking good, man. I told him, you too, sir. I'm going here to take lunch. come and let me buy you lunch. Trust you me, when I called him in, I was not sure whether he will come or not, but he told me, let me go deliver whatever it is I'm delivering, I will come back. My fear was that he may not come back because he probably does not trust me. Because as leaders and as politicians, if we went out for lunch, the obvious thing is that the other person is expecting you will pay. And they don't expect that you can invite me for lunch. And even if you invite me for lunch, literally, they don't believe it is true. So we came, we had a good time, we ate with my friend. He's a member of parliament. And after we were through, somebody else joined us for the conversation who knows both of us. So we talked, and this guy said, you know what? In my entire life as a leader, this is the first time somebody has bought me anything. Otherwise, it has to be me buying. Now, these are the confusions of our psychological being and our mindset. And that's what I'm trying to say, that we need to resolve that we view ourselves in a certain way, people view us in a certain way, but how do we respond to the way people view us? So if we respond such that the way they perceive us is exactly what we should be, then we are pushing ourselves to depression. And talking about depression as I close, celebrities, politicians, public figures, civil servants, managers, entrepreneurs, they are the most depressed people, and they easily fall into depression. And there is an explanation to that. There are two reasons for it. So, number one, politicians, for example, they go through multiple betrayals. So, you hire people to work for you, not really hire, but you recruit and mobilize people to work with you, to work for your campaign. They even draw allowances from you, but then in the night they go and draw allowance to your competition. Sometimes they even share data with the competition. I know of a friend of mine who was running for office around me, who had actually worked on a strategy, recruited a database on in every constituency, and in every, the guy wanted to be governor, in every constituency, in every ward, he had a smart strategy. Had a smart strategy from the polling station, escalated upwards. Escalated should be the other way around. So let me begin up. Had a strategy on how he's recruiting at county level, at sub-county level, which is constituency, at ward level, at sub-location level, up to the polling station. So had a database. But guess what? The person who had the database, who had been entrusted to assist this fellow, compromised the working relationship, compromised the ethic, withheld the database, and in fact sold out that particular database. I'm telling you a truth because it is something that is known to me as a truth and a fact. So you can imagine that degree of betrayal. And politicians never get to process this. They never get to go through therapy sessions. So when people say, or when political scientists say that betrayal is the currency of politics, it is coming from these kind of things. I can give you one straight up. You have, this is common knowledge, it's been in public space. So you are Raila Odinga in 2002 with Mwai Kibaki, come up with the Rainbow Coalition, have a pact. That pact is not honored. You are in 2012, 2013, and you have Huruto duo, the dynamic duo, and you have a plan, you have a strategy. That strategy doesn't bear fruit in the end. In my own county, in Kakamega, there was a discussion about the fact that Governor Oparanya had his deputy, who was Professor Kutima, and I don't know the details. I'm just giving as an example, and then people had hoped that Governor Paranya would support his deputy. Instead, he supported a newcomer for whatever reason. So there could be betrayal both ends. For example, if you talk about Uhuru and Ruto, Ruto feels that Uhuru had guaranteed him that something good was coming. But Uhuru, on the other hand, also feels betrayed and says that, you see, we had a plan to finish the work, and Ruto, rather than supporting me to succeed, was looking backwards and coming for the stick before I even get to the yard. So as you can see, there is Everybody is entitled in their own perspective, and I don't want to discuss the merits. I just used that to make you understand that these are the things that they go through. They go through constant betrayals. They go through bankruptcy. Just the other day, I can float a few names. Their bankruptcy was in the newspapers, whereby they are not able to meet their bills. But mostly, you will find out that, or you'll realize that they were running broke because they were trying to help communities. They were trying to help their constituents. They were trying to solve solutions, because if it was just managing their own families, they don't have to use all this money. And so betrayals, politicians go through a lot of betrayals. Now, the other reason, and mostly it will be the celebrity, the musicians, and the sportsmen, yeah, all of us have come through our difficult journeys and our difficult paths. We have a past. We are coming from broken families. We are coming where our parents were divorced. We were raised without our father. Some of us were raised on the streets. We didn't have school fees. Some people, it was extreme. Some people were abused. You were abused sexually, you were abused physically, you were abused verbally, and all that. Now, what happens is that when you are a public figure, okay, before I get there, whether you are a public figure or not, all these toxicities and all these bad experiences of life, they come to bear at some point. So I'll throw a few names for you. I'll throw at you names like Mike Tyson, who was a great boxer. His life was slowed down because of jail. Muhammad Ali, his case is different because he was slowed down on account of his personal belief when he refused to sign up for war. But he lost a few years. But we thank God he was able to push the envelope and finish his career at the peak. But then guess what happened? I mean, it cost him. He ended up living like his last 30 to 40 years with a medical condition that was not cool at all. Um, I want to throw at you Michael Jackson, the king of pop, who had a very difficult childhood. If you read their stories, I want to throw in names like Whitney Houston, the female singer. I want to throw at you names like R. Kelly. And there are certain themes that are showing, and I hope the musicians are listening to me, the footballers are listening to me, the politicians are listening to me, and the leaders and the civil servants are listening to me. There's something that is synonymous with this, and I wish our psychology was practical, and that's my desire. It is my prayer that psychology would be taught in high school. It is my prayer that psychology can find its way at the minimal level, even in our CBC program, so that there is more self-awareness as we move on. So there is something that is like Muhammad Ali, that was a classical case of racism. Now, R. Kelly was sexually abused. He was molested. He was sodomized when he was still a kid. I don't know about Mike Tyson, but Mike Tyson was on the streets. I think he was on the he was on the streets. Like what we would call street kids. Like chokora huku kwetu. Whitney, I don't know her big story. I don't know her big story. I haven't studied her big story, but it is this whole story of just being broken from the inside. You missed out on something. Michael Jackson died because of an overdose of propofol. Not propofol. Yeah, I'm missing out the name, but he died because of an overdose of the medicine which was supposed to help him to sleep. Whitney Houston, her issues are neither here nor there, but I think she had struggles with drugs herself. She had even lost her voice at the end. She couldn't deliver those magical performances. R. Kelly, jail, issues of rape, and what have you. But all these things can be traced back to how they grew up, the environment in which they grew up, the difficulties they had to go through, the torture and the abuses that they had to endure. And so, all of us who go through torture and abuse as we are growing up, and other versions of torture and abuse are things that we go through in our daily grinding. So as we go through politics, we are also going through forms of abuse. We are being abused by our electorate. I mean, I can say that bluntly. We are being abused by our electorate when they wake up and come to our houses at 5 a.m. That is abuse. It's abuse of our personal space. It is abuse of our rights to privacy. It is abuse of our rights to our families. If people cannot recognize that you also need a little bit of your private space, I will dare you. I will dare you. Politicians do not stay in their homes. Politicians do not stay in their homes because just by being found in that particular home, immediately everybody floods in and they come in with expectations that are beyond your ability to even deliver. Politicians cannot, most politicians, let me put it that way, cannot stay in their own homes for 48 hours continuously, even 24 hours. They can do so if they have an event, and after that particular event, they have to run away from their homes before they come back. So even the process of politics is generally abusive. Now, these guys in the West, the politicians don't even have gates on their own homes. And people do not necessarily come knocking to their doors to insist that they must be given attention, even at the expense of their own family members. But I am not blaming these people. Sometimes it is because that it has been a culture, but something needs to be done about that culture. We can't live like this forever. We need to start living normal lives. So something has to give way. And I am bold enough to say that this conversation needs to be brought on the table. It really doesn't matter the consequences. We have to talk about these things. So my point here is that there are versions of abuse that people go through in their personal lives, but they never get an opportunity to heal. They never get an opportunity to go to therapy and let it out. We have our loved ones passing on. We have our loved ones who die, and we keep throwing ourselves at every other funeral. And, we need to be able to process all this and to heal from all this. Otherwise, it is buried inside us and it shows up later. So there are a lot of abnormal things that you see our leaders doing. There are a lot of abnormal things we see our celebrities doing. There are a lot of abnormal things we see our politicians and some things that just come up even in the lives of our pastors, and we don't understand where that is coming from. And partly it is because we go through a lot of trauma for which we do not take a chance to heal and to be able to detoxify. So if you are a pastor, you are counseling people, you are listening to people's problems, they are crying with you, you are sympathizing until you have no more sympathy to give, and you finally decide to offer yourself as that particular solace. I mean, I'm smiling and laughing at something I shouldn't be laughing at, but you know what I mean here. So when we do not solve these toxicities, by the time we come into the public limelight, we are coming as people who have a bankruptcy. You need to listen to my video, Emotional Bankruptcy. So my YouTube channel is Leopard TV. You need to listen to it and listen to where I talk about emotional bankruptcy. So people are expecting us to give them hope. Yet in our personal lives, there are aspects of us that are hopeless. Politicians are people who go out there, they give all their empathy until they become bankrupt of their empathy. They give compassion until they are bankrupt of compassion.